Hello and welcome to the i3 lecture series by the Masters in Digital Photography here at the School of Visual Arts. I am Julie Graham. Thank you to Tom and Marco for inviting me to curate their speaker series, and thank you all for being here. Welcome especially to this year's students. I hope you'll find my speakers interesting, and I look forward to hearing your questions for them. I'm happy to begin my first season with an old friend, though it will seem impossible looking at our youthful faces that Rayon and I met 23 years ago over a spicy tofu lunch in Chelsea when he was assisting a photographer who I represented at the time named Ernie Panicoli. Ernie is a well-known name in the world of hip-hop and R&B photography, and it wasn't long before I was also representing Rayon as he began to get his own editorial assignments. As a portrait and interior design photographer, Rayon finds his greatest joy in connecting with people and documenting the spaces that we inhabit. When asked what he would do for a living if he wasn't a photographer, he replied that he would have pursued a career as an interior designer or as a psychologist. I've watched Rayon's career develop over the years, and I've seen how he's kept pace with changes in the industry. And I'm looking forward to hearing him share how it's been going since he graduated from SVA. Mr. Richards.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. It's been, I graduated in 2004, so excuse me, that's 19 years since I've been back in this building. And SVA, as obviously, was a big part of the foundation of my career, but it's not where my interest in photography began. My interest in photography began when I was 14 years old. I went on a family trip with my parents to Jamaica. My mom is here. And so I went on a family trip with my family. I went on a family trip with my parents to Jamaica when I was 14. And the last time that I was there before that, I was 4. And so many things had changed between 4 and 14, and I went out and I got a little point-and-shoot camera, and I was just taking pictures of everything. In the event that if I don't come back for another 10 years, at least I have these pictures to remember, and then I can compare if I come back again at 24. I don't know where those pictures are, but that was the catalyst for my interest in recording images, memories, and so on and so forth. So when I came back, I asked my parents for a camera, and of course they were like, it's too expensive, you know? I was 14 years old, like who's giving a kid a camera? And so this was at the beginning of my high school life, and that's where my interest in the arts began. So I started out here at LaGuardia High School of Music and Art, otherwise known as the Fame School. And I was a visual artist. I was a painter, I drew, and I did a lot of things. I was, in some ways, in my own way, a performance artist. And so I would do things to elicit responses from people. And this is a very, very minor one, but it's the most important one, because this is how I got to photography. So there was a social project. I was always not concerned, but interested in what people's thoughts were on things that I did. So there was a series of, this was a part of a project that I had done where I was hanging things off of my book bag straps. Like I had these Boba Fett and the Stormtrooper, Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, and then at one point I had like Hot Wheels cars running up and down. And I would record myself and then record people's reactions to it. Seems silly now, but at the time, it was cool. And I remember when I was putting this together for my mixed media project, I had to take pictures of the items. And I had a little, like, you know, the regular film point-and-shoot cameras. In my mind, I thought I was gonna take some really artistic pictures with them. And I go and I'm taking pictures, and I take the film to Rite Aid, right? 1 hour photo. Rest in peace, Robin Williams. And I take the photos, the film to Rite Aid, and when they give it back to me, total garbage. And I said to the guy, I don't know, why do my pictures look like this? And he goes, because you don't have a real camera. So he was like, don't worry about it, this is what we're gonna do. So we set this up. He took some Polaroids for me so I could have it for my project. And this was junior year, right before senior year, which is when I took a photography class at LaGuardia. And that's how I was able to get a camera, because it's for school, right, Mom? So I got the camera, and here I am in school, photographing my friends. It was just what I did. I carried my camera with me everywhere. I always had my camera on me. And my friends were my greatest subjects. And then I met my mentor, Ernie Panicoli, who is how I know Julie. I met Ernie on the street. I had made plans to go I live in Brooklyn. So I made plans to go to the the Brooklyn Bridge to take a picture of the skyline. And the plan was to go on the Friday. And I got on my bike, started going, started raining. Next day, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go the next day. Got on my bike, my mom's like, you can't go, I got stuff for you to do. Fine. Sunday, no matter what, I'm going. So I got on my bike, riding through Brooklyn, and I got into the Fort Greene area, and I saw a music video being shot. And so I stopped and standing there, and I had my camera on my neck, and this guy comes up to me and he goes, so you're gonna be working with us today? And I was like, yeah, I am. And he's like, okay, cool, just don't get too close when, the video's being produced. And so I was like, sure, no problem. And then there was this big Native American gentleman in a Hawaiian print t-shirt, and he's walking back and forth, and I would go in when he went in. And at some point we started talking, and I'm asking him questions about photography and all this, and so, he said to me, you seem like a good kid. When you go home, take my info. If you want, you can come down to my studio and, check it out. So I go home, excited, tell my mom, I met this guy, and he wants me to come to his studio. He's a photographer. She's like, absolutely not. So I begged, and she said, okay. So I took all my little 1-hour photo prints and the couple prints that I had made in the darkroom at school. I put a little portfolio together and I brought it to him. Showed me, he's like, oh, your work is really good. Actually, the first thing he said to me when I got to his studio, and his studio was on 6th Avenue and 38th Street. First thing he said to me was, do you have a phone? And this is like 99, 2000, so sure, yeah, I have a phone. So he's like, call your mom. Call my mom, give me the phone. Hello, Mrs. Richards. My name is Ernie Panicoli. Just letting you know your son is safe. And that was that. And I was his assistant from that point on for the next 3 years. I worked with him. I was in the studio with him. I was here with Lil Wayne. I would go after school in high school. I would ditch my friends and go hang out in the studio because I was learning like practical photography. I was around celebrities, like people who I admired, and I was getting real life hands-on experience in lighting, all before I even got to SVA. So then I enrolled at SVA. And when I enrolled at SVA was the only school that I applied to. And I did so because I truly believed that if photography was my destiny, I was gonna get into the school. If I didn't get into the school, I was gonna have a lot of explaining to do come September. And thankfully I did get in. And while I was here at SVA, I made a lot of interesting portraits of my fellow classmates. And I was very clear when I was here at SVA from my freshman year on that I wanted to be a commercial photographer. I knew I wasn't here to experiment. I wanted to be a commercial portrait photographer. And so a lot of my work mimicked what I saw in magazines, or just some ideas, whatever ideas that I had, editorial style ideas that I would come up with. And this was in my parents' backyard. My mother's car was in an accident, and this was her friend's daughter, and I was like, oh, let's do this, and And so I was building a portfolio early in my freshman year that was unlike a lot of the other classmates because, you know, I had already had a lot of experience with studio lighting, and I wanted to do commercial portraits, but I also wanted to be a DP in music videos. So I tried to make photos that looked like stills from music videos. You know, experimenting in the studio. I'd be here till late hours of the night, just making photos that looked like they already belonged in a magazine. And then Mass Appeal. So Mass Appeal was the first publication that hired me. And I took those pictures that you saw there, put them in a portfolio, and Budokan, who I also met through Ernie, I met a lot of people through Ernie. Budokan, he is the first person who hired me. And he was like, I'm gonna give you this job, I'm gonna send you down to Philadelphia during the Philly Summer Jam. You're gonna photograph Steph Lover, who at the time was an MTV2 VJ. It's like, you're gonna photograph a day in the life of Steph Lover. I'm like, okay, cool, we'll do that. But I wasn't really a documentary style photographer. That's not really what I wanted to do. But I'm gonna take the job. It's my first publication, right? So I had a plan though. So I had like maybe $400 that I'd made doing headshots of friends. And I went to Adorama and I bought a used RB67, Mamiya RB67. And I was like, if it's possible, I'm gonna see if I can get portraits of the celebrities, because it was a concert, right? So she's interviewing people at the concert, backstage for MTV2. If I can get photos of them separately, then I can build a portfolio of some celebrities, add it to my book, make it look like I've had the experience. So here we are, this is Steph, and we're on the train going to Philadelphia. It's my first time in Philadelphia by myself. I have family there. And we're on the train and I'm telling her, yeah, you know, this is my first job. You know, I'm a photographer at School of Visual Arts. I just completed my freshman year, and you know, I'm really excited about this. And she's like, wow, that's cool. I was like, you know, I would love to get some portraits. And she's like, yeah, whatever you need. So I took this portrait of her in the hotel, and she saw it, because I had a Polaroid, of course. Back in the day, we had Polaroids. And she saw the Polaroid, and she was like, oh yeah, you can take whatever pictures you want. And so we went to the stadium, and these are just shots that I did of her. This is her with Ja Rule, Eve. This is her doing production stuff, Lil Bow Wow. And I love this shot of Lil Bow because he's so short, they have to put him on a chair. And that's her with Ja Rule, and this is me trying to look cool. Yeah. And so these are the portraits that I took. You know, I tried to make each one look like it was a moment that I actually had with them, and that they were all separate photo shoots. So now I had these images that I could add to my book, along with the other images, and I took those to One World magazine. It was the second magazine that I went to. And I walk in there with my portfolio, and I said to the photo editor, whose name was Dwayne Pius, I walk in, and I didn't recognize him at first. He actually recognized me because when I was working with my mentor, Ernie, he used to take me to Vibe magazine with him, he'd take me to parties with him, he'd take me all over the place. So, you know, I was like, everybody remembered, oh yeah, that's Ernie's guy. So I walk in and I drop my portfolio off. I'm like, hey, I'm just here to drop my portfolio off. And he's like, I know you. He's like, come, have a seat. Let me see what you got. So I show him my portfolio, and he's like, I got something for you. I'm gonna give you a job. So he's like, go ahead, you know, leave and go home and whatever. And by the time you get home, I'll call you with something. Got home, got a phone call. Hey, I got this shoot for you. I want you to photograph this Shaolin Buddhist monk who trains Steven Seagal, the RZA, and Wesley Snipes. And so the day that we were supposed to do this shoot, it rained. I'll never forget. It was March 2002. And it rained so hard. And we got there, and then I got a phone call from him saying, hey, I'm so sorry we can't do the shoot today. My wife just went into labor. And I'm like, okay. He's like, well, can we do it next week? And I was like, sure, yeah, no problem. So following week comes, we go where I'm at his dojo, which was in Soho. And I walk in, he's like, I'm so glad you could do the shoot today because I have someone I want you to meet. Now, in between that week, I was like, okay, I got to keep the ball rolling. Like, what's next? Who can I get? What other magazine can I get? And I heard of this magazine called Complex that was supposed to be coming out shortly. But there was no news about it. Like, this is like the AOL days, right? It's like your only access to the internet was AOL, and that was it, right? So if you were actually looking for another website, everything said under construction, and that's all the information that there was, right? So I'm trying to look up information on Complex, nothing is popping up. Show up at the photo shoot, and he goes, I'm so glad you could do the shoot today because there's somebody here who I want you to meet. I'm like, okay. So he introduces me to the guy. His name is Matt Doyle. Hey, how you doing? My name is Rayon. Yeah, I'm a photographer too, blah, blah, blah. I was like, it's nice to meet you. I got to go back over here and set up for the shot, but you're welcome to come over here and chat. So we're talking. And I'm like, so you're a photographer, what type of stuff do you shoot? And he's like, oh, I shoot portraits, but I'm a photo editor now. I just started working at this magazine. You've never heard of it though, because it's not out. I was like, what's it called? And he's like, oh, it's called Complex. I was like, wow, I've been looking for you. And he was like, really? I was like, yeah, I've been looking for you, man. He's like, okay, well, bring your portfolio down and I'll take a look at your work and we'll take it from there. Took my portfolio into him and he hired me to photograph clips, which at the time they had just, as you can see behind there, that's, what is that, what is the building at Columbus Circle? What's it called again? Help me, people. Time Warner Center, yeah. So this is how old this photo is. Time Warner Center is just being built, and I wanted to do something interesting. When I photographed rappers, I always wanted to do something that was a lot more interesting than them holding up chains and pointing at their jewelry or, fake guns. And I didn't want to do anything like that. So I tried to make images that were a lot more interesting than that. So two brothers playing chess in the park. And in this shot, also for Complex, was this rapper Freeway. And I remember I was telling a friend, yeah, I'm gonna photograph Freeway. He was like, oh yeah. He's got that Philly beard. That's a thing in Philly. And I was like, oh, cool. So when I get there and I'm trying to strike up conversation with him, I said, so I heard that beard is a thing in Philly. And he's like, I guess so. I mean, I'm Muslim, and I was like, damn, I feel stupid. And that was when I realized I got to do research. So this is one of my favorite photos of him. And this one of Method Man, this was for The Source magazine. And The Source called me because I draw, right? So I had drawn a caricature of myself with a camera on my portfolio. And they called me and they were like, I dropped my book off. And then 2 days later they called me. It was like, hey, can you come in? And I was like, sure. And when I came in, they were like, we just wanted to meet the guy who drew on his portfolio. And so we had a conversation. They were like, we got something for you. They hired me to photograph Method Man, and we did this in the studio. And this is one of my favorite portraits of all time. Also because I was a huge Wu-Tang Clan fan at the time. And this was the first time I photographed someone who I was a super fan of. And, at this time I was still very fresh and new and trying to come up with ideas. And I didn't really have an idea for this one, but he was like, oh, I got this idea. Let's do this, and let's try this, and let's try this. And that moment really like forced me to, it pushed me in a sense where it made me, I was a little timid at that time, but it was like, you know what, maybe I have a silly idea. The least that can happen is, or the worst that can happen is someone says no, right? But he was down to do whatever, and he came up with a lot of these ideas. And from that point on, I started like getting a little more like interactive with the subjects, right? So from that, I did this. And a lot of people think that this shot is Photoshop. But it isn't. We did this one time, one take. It was with this indie rap group called Bless the Nation, the three guys, and they invited all of their friends to the shoot, and all these people were just hanging out in the room. And at some point, I was just like, everybody just jump in. And so we took this shot, and this is one of my favorite shots from the beginning of my career, because I love the idea of directing all of these people and having them do, different things all at once. And so this shot led to this shot, which was Damon Dash, Freeway again, because I think I'd photographed him about 4 times, and Jules Santana. And this shoot was another shoot where there were 100 people in the room, including Victoria Beckham. Victoria Beckham was in the room. I don't know why she was there, but all these people, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning in the recording studio, and in comes this guy, and he's like, "You should take a picture of me." And I was like, "Why?" He's like, "'Cause I'm gonna be famous someday." He's like, "I'm coming out with an album, it's called The College Dropout, and I'm gonna be famous. Take a picture of me." He put his sneaker on the table. And I was like, "All right, cool, yeah," I took a picture. And then years later, here he is. And the interesting thing about his album being called The College Dropout is that I was probably in my 3rd year at this point, and people kept saying to me, "Yo, why don't you drop out? You're already shooting." And I was like, that's not, being a published photographer is only a part of being a photographer. There's so much more that I have to learn about the process of being a photographer. And the process of being a photographer is not just camera to photo. It's how you interact with people. It's your, it's how things resonate with you, when you're like, there's a spiritual experience, I believe, to photography when there's a camera between you and a person. And so I didn't drop out. I continued shooting. This was Beastie Boys. Ludacris and Lil Jon. This is 2003. One of the great things about having been in school while I started my career is that I was able to use a lot of the school's equipment on photo shoots. So here I am with Nicki Minaj, and we went to high school together. And at the time, a lot of my friends were in performing arts, and she had heard that I had started a career as a photographer because people saw me taking pictures in high school. And she asked me to help her with her first photo shoot, and this is us. Thanksgiving 2005. This is a year after graduation. I got a call, "Hey, what are you doing right now?" I'm like, "I'm eating." And they're like, "Well," the photo editor's like, "Well, BB King's gonna be at BB King's. Can you get down there and photograph?" And I was like, "I'm there already." And so I had 10 minutes with him. I love this moment. This was the first photo shoot that Slick Rick did after he was released from prison. And it was for XXL magazine. And through this photograph, his family, he and his wife, they loved this photo so much. They purchased this photo, they've used it over and over again. We've developed a relationship just off of this image. It's one of my strongest. And Colin Quinn. This is a dance troupe. American Thunderbird Dancers is their name, if I'm not mistaken. I like people just in their element, just. The picture on the right of Prodigy was for his album package. We were supposed to do the shoot the week before this, and he showed up. I was ready to go, and then he goes, "Yeah, we're gonna have to reschedule the photo shoot because I just got this idea of how I want to do this, and we're not gonna be able to do it today." Broke down all the lights, went home, came back the following week, and he was dressed like a 1930s gangster, and I freaking loved it. And this is DJ Khaled. And the reason I love this picture of DJ Khaled is you can't tell immediately. This was for his Victory album cover. And you can't, you know, DJ Khaled is such a showy kind of like outwardly, you know, gregarious kind of guy. And I love the fact that he's kind of hidden behind this cloud of smoke, but you can still tell that it's him. Pharrell Williams, Anthony Davis, Carrie Hilson. I call this photo 24 hours in Atlanta. I flew down early that morning, did the photo shoot, went to sleep, woke up the next morning, came right back home. So many photo shoots have been like that. Danny Lay. And then this is recent. This is Dream Theater for their album package for their latest album, and Vampire Weekend. I like, as much as I like photographing individuals, I really enjoy the interaction between groups. You know, sometimes, and what I also find interesting is how much the interaction between music groups is relative to the style of music that they play. You know, because we have some metal guys, right? They're not going to be acting like that. And then we have Vampire Weekend over there, and they're like total clowns, and I love it. One of my favorites, Tom Colicchio. John McEnroe and Spike Lee. Nipsey Hussle and Attorney General Eric Holder. Kevin Bacon and Terrence Howard. The interesting thing about the Terrence Howard shoot, right, was he was home. So this is in his hallway, in his elevator. And when we did this shot, this was at the end of it. But I was at his house for 3 hours. And prior to the shoot, this is in Chicago, prior to the shoot, his publicist says, "You're only going to have 10 minutes, just so you know." I was like, 10 minutes? I flew all the way to Chicago for 10 minutes. Okay, fine. But when we got there, we started shooting, and then he was like, "Oh, let's try this. Oh, let's try this." And then apparently he makes model atoms. He wanted to take pictures with the atoms. And I started to realize that when people are just home, they're just home. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a guest in his house, essentially. I'm just photographing him, and he doesn't have any interest in going anywhere. So we shot for 3 hours. And photographing people at home, it has become my favorite thing. There's something about when a celebrity is at home, you know, or anybody for that matter, but like specifically celebrities, because they're so kind of like all over the place. They have to perform. They have to be on all the time. That when they get to just be home, you get a different kind of image from them. This is Gabrielle Anwar at home, and we're going to revisit this shoot shortly. Fantasia, Moby at home. Nile Rodgers at his home in Connecticut. Mike Stroud. Snooki. This was for Heat magazine, if I remember correctly. The Edge. The Edge. This is a recent photo on the right of Salida Ebanks. This is an older photo of The Edge. I love this photo of The Edge because when I did this photo, this was like 2005, and I was 23. And usually, as a photographer, you're the one who is keeping up the conversation, you know, asking questions, trying to like be engaging. But this guy was so curious about how some 23-year-old kid was the one who was photographing him for the cover of a magazine, that he was asking me all the questions about me. We had a good conversation. Miss Teen USA, 2019. Amber Rose on the rooftop of the Aventi Hotel. Poppy Harlow. So I like catching I like things, I like capturing things as they're happening, where they are, where people are in their lives. And in most cases, they, people would be like, oh, we gotta, you take the picture, maybe light it in a way that hides her belly, she's pregnant, we don't wanna. And I was like, no, no, why? This is awesome. And so like I told her at the end of the shoot, I was like, let's do some like wacky maternity photos. And so this to me is so much of a better photograph than the ones that we did for the magazine. Snooki and Pauly D. This is the first time I photographed Snooki. And then Soledad O'Brien, who, believe it or not, has a wild potty mouth. And I was surprised. It's so interesting because people like that who are supposed to be so buttoned up, when you are interacting with them and you realize that they're just regular people like everybody else. Sometimes it's a shock, but it's also like a breath of fresh air. Olivia Munn, this was also for Complex, and that's Diddy for Parade magazine. I get lucky sometimes, a lot of times rappers like to do a lot of posturing, but I don't know what it is about my interactions with them. I don't get that very often. I get people just wanting to just be themselves, and not feel like they have to perform for the camera, which I really appreciate. Lester Holt and Pat Kiernan. The Safdie brothers. I love this photo just because they just sat there, and I love that they're both doing the same exact thing with their hands. Peter Frampton. So back to Gabrielle Anwar. The reason this was a really pivotal photo shoot for me, because at this time I was just doing portraits. And like I said, I always had an interest in interior design, but like I really had no avenue to pursue it through. And a lot of my celebrity portrait work was studio or a location. This was the first one where I photographed someone at home. And it was so interesting to see how relaxed she was, just being in her own space. And it really made me take a step back and look at her home as a space separate from her. Because, she was like, did you know that I'm a dancer? And I was like, I didn't. She just started twirling. And I probably would not have gotten that from her if we were in a studio. Just total relaxation. And, as I'm there in her home, looking at like all of the things that are personal to her and all the things that make her feel that comfortable enough to want to twirl in her home like this for the camera, it made me think about interior spaces and wanting to explore that more, because it's the space that she's in that made her that comfortable. So here's I'm not going to call this a detour, but like a branch, right? Like of my career, where I started out doing portraits, and then this is the same year, which is the interesting thing, right? You really have to be careful what you say, because like the tongue is very powerful, right? I was like, I really want to like explore interiors more, because essentially what I learned from that shoot with Gabrielle, as I was looking around at her space and all of the personal items that she had around, all the things that made her comfortable. This home is a portrait of her without her in it, So I wanted to do more interiors. And one day in that same year, I got a phone call from a photo editor who used to work at Institutional Investor. And she called me in and she was like, and photo editors, they used to jump around from magazine to magazine. And she called me in and she's like, hey, I'd love for you to bring your portfolio in. I'm at Wall Street Journal now. I want to see what you've got. So I show up with a portfolio full of portraits. She looks through and she was like, this is really great. And she's like, is there anything else you like shooting besides portraits? And I was like, well, I like interiors. She was like, well, send me some of the stuff you've got. I only had 2 pictures. And I sent her these 2 pictures that I did of my friend Renee Wong's projects. And Renee is an interior designer who graduated from SVA, the interior design program, and that's how we actually met. And we remained in touch after school. And as she was starting to develop her career, she asked me to photograph some of her properties, now she's not a real estate agent, some of her projects. And this was one that I did in Brooklyn. So these are the only 2 photos that I had to show. And from that point on, for the next 7 years, the Wall Street Journal only hired me to photograph interior spaces. And the section that I was doing was called House of the Day. And it was really supposed to be like real estate-ish, where it's just like, this is a super duper expensive home in the Hamptons, in Shelter Island, in Greenwich, Connecticut, in Colts Neck, New Jersey. You know, make it big. Super wide photos. And I did do that, but for me it was also an exploration of home, right? Like this was like the first time that I was in so many homes. 150 homes that I shot in 7 years. And a lot of them were just really like nice. And I had an opportunity to just be in people's homes for like 3-4 hours. And no one minded. And they were just like, go have fun. And a lot of times, a lot of them were also wives of hedge fund guys. So they were home alone by themselves, and they were so happy for the company. And like they would have their, and we just took pictures, and they would have, I gotta say that, right? They'd have their chef make food for us. It was a good time. So, this was great practice for me. What happened? What's going on? Anyway, interiors. So, I did what the Wall Street Journal needed, but I also just kind of walked around and made art in these people's homes. And I used this as an opportunity to build my interior design portfolio. I mean, insane. I mean, look at the scale. Fire Island. Art was just happening. I was just walking around the homes, camera on tripod, and I just saw images happening. Light and shadow, I'm sorry. Not sure why that's happening. Huh?
We'll fix it in post.
Okay. I don't know what this shower situation is, but it was interesting, but I love this one. Oh, and this one. So, this is in Pelham, in the Bronx. I'd hear a lot of interesting stories. I meet a lot of really interesting people, but this one in particular, in the Bronx, I had to photograph this home. The owner had just passed away. He had a collection of about 20 Ferraris, and Italian family. And I said to Gaudi, I said to the to one of the maintenance guys around the house, I was like, what happened? How did he pass? He goes, whoa, we don't talk about that. He was in sanitation. I was like, oh, that's all I needed to hear. That's all I needed to hear. But I just loved the moments, they were just there. It's like I was walking through art, and I really just honed my interior eye through that experience. Again, forgive me, folks. So that portfolio that I had, just like I started with the portfolio with the celebrities in the backstage. Now I had a portfolio that like could take me out into the portrait world. The Wall Street Journal stuff is what took me into the interior design world. And so I started meeting interior designers, and once you're in, you're kind of in. And of course, social media and that sort of thing helps. So I've met a lot of interior designers in the last couple of years. Really, really, really wonderful, wonderful people who trust me and trust my eye. And we've made some beautiful work together. And you know, the wild thing, the thing that I love most about interiors is I'm making art out of someone else's art. And that, so essentially I'm kind of the documentarian that I said that I wasn't earlier. I'm literally documenting someone else's art. But through composition, like I'm making something beautiful, and I'm helping other people really, really see the magic in people's choices in furniture, colors, textures. And personality. You know, each space has its own personality. It's not that much different than photographing a person. You know, I walk into a room and I meet a person, I shake their hand, I get a good sense of their character, you know, in a few minutes. And just the same, I'm photographing a space, I walk into the room and I just kind of allow the room to tell me about itself, you know. And that changes, you know, with lighting. It changes if it's a sunny day or a cloudy day. Like, there's so many things that affect how we spaces register with us. You know, just like if someone's having a bad day or they're in a really good mood. You know, there's so many things that affect how, you know, we see people. And I started to realize that, you know, there's a connection between people and spaces. And I was having a hard time with that for a while because, you know, the photo industry kind of wants you to be one thing, you know, and do that one thing and do it well, you know. You're a portrait photographer, do that well. You could be a portrait photographer and a fashion photographer because you're still photographing people. But if you're a portrait photographer and an interiors photographer, how do you meld those worlds? And so for a long time, I had 2 separate websites, 2 separate business cards. I still have 2 separate Instagrams because that makes sense, but it was becoming really exhausting trying to figure out, you know, how to say that, you know, I'm one person, I'm one photographer, and this is all my body of work. And, you know, I always think back to that Gabrielle Anwar shoot where it's like, again, an interior shot is a portrait of a person without them in it. It's their choices in flowers, you know, the choice in furniture, the choice to do that gold backsplash, or to have, you know, to have this arch as opposed to sharp corners. All of these things say something about the people who inhabit the space. You know, the choice to have that many pieces of art on the wall as opposed to just one simple piece. Like, all of that says something about a person. And so once I started to realize that, which, believe me, was a struggle for a few years, because I went from being a portrait photographer who does interiors to a interior design and portrait photographer, but I still had a hard time reconciling with both worlds, solely because, again, like the photo industry, they kind of want you to be one thing. But once I was able to really understand that, like, the things that we own, the spaces that we live in, are us, right? Our personalities shine through because everything here says patriotism, right? Patriotism is a concept, but like she says patriotism, so does that pillow, so does this entire room. You know, it's all one and the same. Relaxation. It's all personality. People have personalities, and so do spaces. Calm. Radiance, right? This is Poppy Harlow again. This was the shot for the magazine where we kind of hid the belly. But I love the halo, you know, and again, this was in a home in Shelter Island, and I just looked up at the ceiling. But they both say the same thing to me, radiance. You know, mood. This might be my favorite of all of them, just because it's so confrontational, both. And you know, what I love most about when I figured this out is a lot of this stuff, I just had it, you know, and it was kind of like taking puzzle pieces and putting them together. And each time I do a shoot, it's an additional piece to the overall puzzle. Another favorite of mine, just, you know. I love finding these pairings, you know, and making it make sense. Two completely separate photo shoots, but this is Rachel Roy, who's a fashion designer, and then this is a boutique on Madison Avenue. And this says luxury to me. These are 3 separate photo shoots. This was an opera singer in Carnegie Hall, but you know, the floral design of the dress, the floral, you know, the flowers here, the flowers there, like all of these things kind of relate to each other. And you can see them, you can see this being her world. You know? And that's my whole thing, is about connecting worlds. Two separate shoots. And even this, right? These 3 images have nothing to do with each other, but the shape of his head, the shape there on the top, and then the shape of the ceiling there. You know, I'm just fascinated by how things can relate that really have nothing to do with each other. Light and dark in the same home. And again, the things that we own, the way that we interact with the world around us. Three separate spaces, but you can see him existing in each one of these shots. And even drug addicts deserve some calm and peace. Mm-hmm. You know, there's the things that we that we carry, the things that we have, that we I'm at a loss for words. Forgive me. And the last thing I just want to show is a project that I started a few years ago, maybe 2 years ago, called I'm sorry, you can't hear me. A project I started a few years ago called I Was Here. It's a personal project and this is my first personal project in 22 years. When I was at school, again, I said I really wanted to focus on being a commercial photographer. And when I was in school, a lot of my instructors used to say, you gotta make personal work, you gotta make personal work. And I didn't care about making personal work. I just wanted to be in the industry. And, you know, that's great, but it took me about 20 years to realize the importance of personal work, because you get burnt out. Yes, of course, a lot of this work I'm making, it's my vision, it's my eye, it's my voice, it's my work, yes, but I'm making it for someone else. So making work for myself has become really, really fulfilling. So I'm working on this project called I Was Here, and I'm just basically going around, as a person who grew up in Brooklyn, born and raised in Brooklyn. So much of Brooklyn has changed in the last, I don't know, I'd say 20 years. So I've been documenting all of the spaces that I have inhabited, that I have existed in, whether they be my own homes, malls, churches, schools, friends' homes, doctors' offices, and I'm just creating a body of work for myself. And so this is it here. It's apartments that I've lived in. My parents' home. The home of friends, school. The library around the corner that I used to go to every day after school. Church. Another church I used to go to. And even buildings that are no longer there. The hospital I was born at. The mall I hung out in and still do. Diner. And this is probably one of the most important photographs to me, because this is a bodega that is a few doors down from the daycare that I used to go to when I was 3, 4 years old. And I still remember my father picking me up from daycare every day, and I would walk into this bodega and pick up Twinkies and just walk out. And so my dad recently passed away 2 years ago, and so this photo is really important to me because this photo is a portrait of us. You know. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hi, I grew
Hi.
up in Brooklyn too.
Okay.
And about 10 years ago, I figured I'd take my kids to all the places I went to school and all the apartments I went into. And I was determined to knock on every door. But I didn't have the guts to do it. Did you do that?
No, but I'm telling you, this building here, this is where my parents, I'd age 0 to age 6. I was in this building on Cal Street between Utica and Schenectady, apartment 6C, and every time I pass by, I think about going and ringing the doorbell, but I can't. I can, but I can't go by myself. I feel like as a man, I have to be with a woman or you know, like maybe a child, someone that softens me a little bit. You know, I can't just show up and people are looking through the thing and they're like, I'm like, yeah, I used to live here. Yeah.
Makes you non-threatening.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally.
Thank you. All right, students in the back.
Hi, thanks for the presentation.
So
Oh.
you can project that.
Okay, nice. Thanks for the presentation. It's amazing work.
Thank you.
I am more interested in a part of like the celebrity stuff, if you
Okay.
don't mind.
Yeah.
I love how you became like kind of like, it's not a friend, but like very intimate with them
Yeah.
in a sense of like developing a connection and building this like amazing portfolio and blah, blah, blah. And nowadays I have the opportunity to work with a few celebrities, but I I still can't find a way to break this wall between me and them.
Yeah.
And it's not about them actually. It's about one celebrity in specific that I
Okay.
really want to work with.
Yeah.
But I shot her like 5 times already, like took photos of her, but I can't just like break this wall to like go to her place and take
Yeah.
a photo or some, you know what I mean?
Well, as far as going to people's places, those happened because that's where the publication sent me. It wasn't that they themselves invited me to their place to photograph them. But honestly, I think the best way, in my experience, the best way to befriend celebrities is to not treat them like a celebrity. I'm not saying that that's what you do, but over time, I've learned that I just go into the situation and I just talk to them like they're a regular person. Like I barely even ask them about what they do. I like, when's the next album coming out? I don't say anything like that. Did you see the Jets game yesterday? Did you see Aaron Rodgers? Like, what are the Jets gonna do now? That's, I try to have those kind of conversations. What was the last movie that you watched that you really enjoyed? I have those kind of conversations with them because it's like they leave their homes and then they step into a very, very fake world. Everybody who deals with them, even the people who deal with them closely, their managers, their publicists, they are trying to keep their jobs. And because they're trying to keep their jobs, there's always this sense of anxiety. And so there's never really an authentic relationship or connection. I find that they're really searching for that. And so I think the easiest way to break down that wall with them is to just treat them like they're anybody else. Yeah. I hope that helps. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
I have a question.
Sure.
Like about like the interior and like the portrait, how you made a connection between like the person and the area.
Okay.
So whenever you like, so for example, like you met this some person and like it was like very like sunny day and you saw their like place and stuff like that and you thought like it would be better if it was like a little bit like lower light and stuff like that. Like do you like purposely make changes for the lights and stuff like that in the place to approach some of the personality that can fit to the person that you're shooting with?
Not particularly. I really like to I think one of the things, particularly with interiors, is I do very little manipulation, because I think that the places have personality, and how I meet this place is how I've met them, like how I've met it, how I meet this person today. Whatever mood they're in is just where they're at, and this is where we are in time together today. So if say for example, if the person is a moody person, but their place is super bright, to me that makes for a more interesting picture because of the juxtaposition of that, right? It's like, here's this person who's like, maybe they're not in a good mood today and they're not really giving me much, but it's super bright and sunny and airy behind them. Like that's the picture, So I try to just allow the universe to work and just like let God speak and just capture what's happening.
I actually have one more question. So whenever you were showing us the portfolio, I thought it was really fascinating the way that you laid out all your pieces together, even though the photo shoot itself was not related.
Yeah.
And I think like we all can kind of like understand this feeling of like how and like what is the best way to showcase our work, even like the orders of it or like where we put it. Do you have any advice to us as a grad students that we have to prepare exhibitions like for next semester and stuff like that? Like where would be the good point for us to start and like think about how to showcase like really amazing way like you?
Well,
I don't know if that question made sense.
It makes sense. But I'm trying to. Well, my question is, what's the end point? Like, where are you showcasing the work, right? Because doing it this way was solely for putting together a book, right? So I'm putting together a book that's going to be a printed book where the images are going to be, like this is one page, might be on the left, and on the right it might be this, So it's like, you have the juxtaposition of these two, and they relate to each other. The greens and the oranges, they relate. So my question first would be like, how are you planning to show your work? I know we live in a digital world now, so everything is on screen and everything is online. But I would. It all depends on. I think it all depends on your voice and like what your style of work is, and what direction you want to go in. I know that's kind of a vague.
No, it's
answer,
good.
but
Yeah, thank you.
Because this, to me, this wouldn't work on Instagram, right? Like if I was just using Instagram to show this stuff, it wouldn't work. This is specifically for a printed book, and it just happens to work here because it's large, you can actually see it. But I tried posting this on Instagram before, and it was like, I'm like, so again, it's about how you decide to lay things out, how you decide to display it depends on where it's going.
Hi. So you mentioned in the beginning that when you were a freshman, that was your break into the industry. I was just wondering, like, especially since now things have changed over the last like 20 years or so. Do you have any advice for any like newcomers trying to break into the industry? Besides technical skill.
My advice to a newcomer trying to break into the industry, it's changed so much. And when I was coming up, it was much easier to get in front of people. Everyone had a designated desk in a designated office in a designated building, and you could look it up and you could find them and you could go there and you could meet them. You could go to some industry party and they were there. But with social media first, that changed a lot with Instagram. And then with COVID, and then people working from home, it's like, even for me, it doesn't even make any sense really sometimes to send out mailers because who's gonna get it, So it's like, I think, honestly, you've gotta make yourself visible on social. Yeah, I hate to say that, but like, make yourself visible on social, get emails, phone numbers of people, reach out to them, don't be afraid to cold call. Those are the best ways. I think also, this is really important. Calling people, I've realized, is really, really important in this day and age. I think because everything has gone digital and everybody's just looking at a screen and everybody's just isolated at home by themselves, like hearing someone else's voice is super important. I've been looking for an agent recently, and I started off by sending emails, and then I wasn't getting responses, and then I just started calling people. Right? You're trying to break into the industry. I'm trying to break into another part of the industry. I'm trying to get an agent, right? So I'm in a similar boat in a different kind of way. And because again, like, there are no offices, right? Everyone's working from home. So I called a few agents, and I remember calling one specific agent, and she kept saying, "Thank you so much for calling me." And I was like, yeah. She was like, "It's just so nice to hear a human voice." Yeah, because that's where we are, like we're so isolated from each other. Everybody's just living in their phones and living on their computers that like we're losing human touch. So I think at this point, and as I'm talking through this, I think getting people's information, you can use like Agency Access is a great resource, and getting their numbers and just calling, yeah.
I'll add to that because I think Agency Access is like a listing of editors and curators and book publishers and so on and so forth. But I think if you have a sense of who you want to shoot for, who is it, where are they, phoning is one thing, but actually really targeting. So, if you are spreading your net really, really wide, it becomes really tiring, and the people that you're marketing yourself to don't feel special.
Right.
Whereas if you know who it is you really want to shoot for. In our day, it was like, I really want to shoot for Entertainment Weekly magazine, for example. I want to shoot the cover of whatever. Things have changed now, but if you can identify like something to really focus on and then throw your energy at that for a while, if it doesn't work, you can reposition yourself. The main thing is you have beautiful images. Social media does afford us to actually get in front of people, perhaps more easier in some ways than knocking on a door like we used to do.
Right.
But it's just this enormous, massive pool, which none of us can really handle. So if you just think about which tiny little slice of that pie that you want to go after, it might just be easier.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Richards? Yes.
Good to see you. Thank
Oh,
you for everything.
what's
yes.
up?
What's up?
How you
man?
doing, man?
I want to look ahead in terms of your future, I guess, creative goals and what you're interested. Now that you have a beautiful body of work and you are looking to combine those, but I'm more interested in taking those transferable skills and now looking ahead to what you truly want to do, and whether it's that pivot at Wall Street Journal and what this next pivot could be. What are your interests now in photography now that you have these two large bodies of work? And I understand, publication might be one piece, but subject matter wise, outside of the I guess, personal project, if that's it, great. But, where do you see kind of your career progressing and in terms of your subject matter and commercial work?
I think thank you for that question. I think now that I've solved the problem, which this is actually, that whole portfolio that I showed you this whole thing is very, very recent. Now that I've solved the problem of connecting these two very separate worlds, it's like a pyramid, right? And so now I feel like I'm at this apex where I want to move forward in this direction, right? So I want to do more celebrities at home. I was in 2021, Architectural Digest listed me as one of their 50 photographers to work with, right? 50 approved photographers to work with. So that has kind of ushered me it's given me a boost in the direction that I want to go in. I also want to shoot catalogs though. That's as far as commercial stuff goes, advertising, which is generally, it's editorial and album packaging and advertising. In terms of advertising, my dream is to shoot a Restoration Hardware catalog. And then eventually have my entire home furnished by Restoration Hardware furniture. So, and then just continuing working on personal projects, I really have a dream of one day owning my own gallery and having 2 shows a year. Spring equinox show and an autumn equinox show, and just making it a big party. And every year, everybody knows it's Rayon's big spring equinox show is coming up. Don't do anything with your calendars. It's gonna be crazy. So I just want to keep creating, and the thing that I love about my career, like I was saying about how the Wall Street Journal kind of just fell in my lap, because a couple months prior to that, I was sitting in this woman's home saying, damn, I really should explore interiors more. I love, and kind of how I was explaining how my career began, I feel often like as much as I'm in the driver's seat, I'm also in the passenger seat. And I love feeling like I'm in control, but I'm also allowing the universe to steer me. And just surrendering to knowing that I'm always gonna be okay. And every new photo shoot is a step in the direction that I wanna go in. So I'm here for the ride. And again, like I was saying, I wanna do gallery shows, and I wanna do catalogs and just see what's next. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a really gorgeous place to end. Thank you so much, Rayon.
Yeah, thank you.
Round of applause
Thank
for
you.
Mr. Richards.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, the pleasure was mine, thank you.